The air hung thick and humid, a stifling blanket over Havenwood, the small, forgotten town my family and I had called home for years. It was the 3rd of July, and the scent of gunpowder and cheap barbecue already permeated the evening breeze. Tomorrow, the town would erupt in a cacophony of celebration, a tradition as old as Havenwood itself. But for me, and for those who truly knew Havenwood, the 4th of July held a different, far more sinister meaning. I'd seen Old Man Hemlock, his eyes like chipped flint, sitting on his porch swing earlier, watching some younger kid setting off firecrackers down by the creek. "Fools," I heard him mutter, his voice raspy like dry leaves. "They never learn." Hemlock had seen too many 4ths of July in Havenwood, too many unexplained disappearances, too many whispers of things that lurked just beyond the veil of normalcy. His words echoed what I'd heard my grandmother say in hushed tones. The legend, whispered from generation to generation in my family, spoke of a pact. A pact made centuries ago by the town's founders, desperate to survive a brutal winter. They had traded something precious, something vital, for a promise of prosperity, and every 4th of July, the price came due. It was a story I'd always dismissed as local folklore, but a part of me, the quiet, observant part, always felt a prickle of unease as the holiday approached. This year, the unease started earlier than usual. I noticed it in the town's children, usually so boisterous. Their laughter, when it came, seemed forced, brittle. And the adults, usually so welcoming, had a distant, almost fearful look in their eyes when the subject of a 4th came up. Our new neighbor, Sarah, a bright-eyed newcomer, seemed to notice it too. Mrs. Gable, her hands trembling slightly, had just offered Sarah some cookies and muttered, "It's just the excitement." But I saw the way Mrs. Gable's gaze darted to the darkening woods that bordered the town, a flicker of genuine terror in her usually placid eyes. On the night of the 3rd, Liam, Chloe, Mark, and I, fueled by bravado and cheap beer, decided to explore the old abandoned mill. It was a Havenwood rite of passage, a place where local legends converged. Liam, always the self-proclaimed leader, Chloe, his cynical girlfriend, and Mark, perpetually nervous. And me, the quiet observer, tagging along. As we pushed through the rusted gates, the air grew heavy, the scent of decay mingling with the metallic tang of old machinery. Dust motes danced in the fading light filtering through grimy windows. "Creepy," Mark whispered, his voice barely audible. I nodded, feeling a chill despite the humid evening. Suddenly, a low hum vibrated through the floorboards. It grew louder, a deep, resonant thrum that seemed to come from the very earth beneath us. The hum intensified, filling the cavernous space, and then, just as quickly, it ceased. A profound silence descended, broken only by our ragged breaths. "What was that?" Chloe asked, her bravado faltering. Liam, trying to regain control, scoffed. "Just the wind. Come on, let's go to the basement. That's where the real spooky stuff is." My gut churned, telling me this was a bad idea, but I followed. The basement was a labyrinth of shadows and forgotten things. Cobwebs clung to our faces like ghostly fingers. As we descended, the air grew colder, a damp chill that seeped into our bones. At the very bottom, in the deepest recess, we found it. A circular stone altar, crudely carved with symbols that seemed to writhe in the dim light. Around it, 7 decaying wooden effigies, each clutching a small, tarnished silver bell. The air here was thick with an oppressive energy, a palpable sense of dread. This wasn't just folklore. This was real. I spoke, my voice barely a whisper, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "This is it. This is where they say the pact was made." Liam, despite his earlier bravado, felt a prickle of fear. "What pact?" "The one where they sacrificed something to survive," I replied, my eyes fixed on the altar. The stories I'd overheard from my grandmother came flooding back. "They say the bells ring when it's time for the payment." As if on cue, a faint, metallic jingle echoed through the basement. One of the silver bells on an effigy had moved, ever so slightly. My blood ran cold. Panic flared. "Let's get out of here," Mark shrieked, scrambling back up the stairs. We followed, our hearts pounding against our ribs. We burst out of the mill, gasping for breath, the cool night air a welcome relief. But as we looked back, a single, unblinking red light glowed from one of the mill's broken windows, like a malevolent eye watching us. It felt like something was truly awake now. The next day, the 4th of July, dawned with an unnerving stillness. The usual morning bustle was absent. The streets were eerily quiet. Making my way to the town square for the annual parade, I felt a growing sense of dread. The silence felt wrong. The parade itself was a muted affair. The floats, usually vibrant and festive, seemed faded, almost mournful. The marching band played a somber tune, their faces grim. And the townspeople, lining the streets, watched with a strange, expectant silence, their eyes darting nervously towards the woods. It was like they were waiting for something inevitable. As the last float passed, a chill wind swept through the square, despite the summer heat. The air crackled with an unseen energy. Then, the bells began to ring. Not the cheerful jingle of a celebration, but a discordant, mournful chime that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was the same sound from the mill basement, only amplified, echoing through the entire town. The townspeople froze, their faces etched with terror. I watched in horror as a ripple of fear spread through the crowd. Children clutched at their parents' legs, their small faces pale. From the edge of the woods, a figure emerged. My breath caught in my throat. It was tall, impossibly thin, its limbs long and spindly. It moved with an unnatural gait, a jerky, disjointed motion. Its head was a featureless, elongated oval, and where its eyes should have been, 2 pinpricks of crimson light glowed. A collective gasp went through the crowd, quickly turning into whimpers. This was no costumed prankster. This was something ancient, something malevolent. It was the thing from the legends, and it was real. The creature moved towards the town square, its movements slow and deliberate, each step accompanied by the faint, chilling jingle of bells. As it drew closer, I could make out more details. Its skin was like dried parchment, stretched taut over a skeletal frame. And from its back, long, thin tendrils writhed, each tipped with a small, tarnished silver bell. The bells on the effigies in the mill basement had been a warning. These were the true bells, the ones that heralded the payment. The creature stopped in the center of the square, its featureless head turning slowly, as if surveying the terrified faces before it. Its tendrils twitched, and the bells on their tips chimed with a sickening sweetness. Then, it pointed a long, bony finger at a young boy, no older than 10, standing near his parents. My heart leaped into my throat. The boy's eyes widened in terror. His parents screamed, trying to pull him away, but it was too late. The tendrils shot out, wrapping around the boy, pulling him towards the creature with horrifying speed. His screams were abruptly cut off as he was enveloped by the writhing mass. The creature's form seemed to shimmer, to absorb the boy, and then it was gone, leaving only the lingering scent of ozone and a profound, chilling silence. The townspeople stood frozen, their faces a mixture of grief and a horrifying resignation. This was the price. Every 4th of July. I understood then why Old Man Hemlock always muttered about fools who never learn. Paralyzed by fear, I watched as the creature reappeared, its form slightly more substantial, the crimson pinpricks of light in its head glowing with renewed intensity. It chose another victim, then another, each disappearance marked by the sickening chime of bells and a silent, agonizing terror. Liam, Chloe, Mark, and I were huddled together, our faces ashen. We had seen it emerge. "We have to do something," I whispered, my voice trembling. It felt like an impossible, insane thought, but I couldn't just stand there. "What can we do?" Liam retorted, his bravado completely gone. "It's unstoppable." "The altar," I said, my eyes wide with a desperate realization. "The effigies. The bells. It's all connected. Maybe if we destroy the bells on the altar, it will stop." It was a desperate, foolhardy plan, but it was the only one that made any sense, the only sliver of hope. While the creature was occupied with its gruesome task in the town square, we slipped away, running back towards the old mill. The journey back was fraught with a new kind of terror. The town, usually so vibrant, was now a silent testament to fear. The distant screams from the square echoed in our ears, a horrifying soundtrack to our desperate mission. My legs burned, but I pushed harder. We stumbled back into the mill basement, the oppressive atmosphere even heavier than before. The stone altar seemed to pulse with a dark energy. The 7 effigies stood sentinel, their tarnished silver bells glinting malevolently in the faint light. "We have to smash them," I urged, grabbing a loose brick from the floor. Liam, still hesitant, looked at the ancient, unyielding stone. "With what?" "Anything," Chloe cried, her eyes wide with fear. "Just break them." We began to strike at the effigies, our blows clumsy and desperate. The wood was old and brittle, but the bells were surprisingly resilient. Each clang of metal against stone reverberated through the basement, a jarring counterpoint to the distant screams from the town. Mark, his hands shaking, finally managed to dislodge one of the bells from an effigy. As it fell to the stone floor, it shattered with a sharp crack. A guttural shriek echoed from above, a sound of pure agony and rage that made our blood run cold. It worked. We redoubled our efforts, fueled by the creature's pained cry. One by one, the bells were smashed, each broken chime met with another agonizing shriek from the creature. The air in the basement grew colder, the shadows seemed to lengthen and writhe. Finally, with a desperate swing, Liam brought a heavy metal pipe down on the last bell. It exploded into a shower of silver fragments. A deafening roar erupted from the town square, a sound of unimaginable fury and despair. The ground beneath us trembled. Then, a profound, unsettling silence fell. The screams had stopped. The bells were silent. We cautiously made our way back to the town square. The scene that greeted us was horrific. Bodies lay scattered, lifeless and drained. But the creature was gone. Vanished. The townspeople, those who remained, were huddled together, weeping, their faces etched with a grief that would never fully heal. The silence now was heavier than the screams had been. Old Man Hemlock, his eyes now filled with a strange, weary triumph, approached us. "You did it," he rasped, a faint smile playing on his lips. "You broke the pact." But the victory was bittersweet. The town of Havenwood was irrevocably scarred. The 4th of July would forever be a day of remembrance for us, a somber reminder of the price we had paid, and the terrifying entity that had demanded it. As the sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows over the traumatized town, a single, faint jingle echoed from the direction of the old mill. It was almost imperceptible, a whisper on the wind. My heart clenched. And in the deepest, darkest corner of the mill basement, I knew, a single, tiny fragment of a silver bell shimmered, almost invisible in the gloom. It pulsed with a faint, malevolent light, waiting for the next 4th of July, waiting for the pact to be forgotten, waiting for Havenwood to pay its price once more. Because some horrors, once awakened, can never truly be put to rest. And I, for one, would never forget.
For more thrilling and mysterious videos, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button,